I worked the night shift because nothing was expected of me there. The building was an office complex during the day. Glass walls, motivational posters, people who smelled like coffee and certainty. At night, it belonged to the hum of vending machines and the occasional flicker of fluorescent lights that hadn't been replaced in years. My job title was security monitor, but really I was a professional watcher of nothing. I sat in a small room with 6 screens showing empty hallways and locked doors, drinking lukewarm coffee and listening to the building breathe. That was where I was the first time my future self called me. The phone on the desk wasn't even supposed to ring. It was a landline connected only to internal offices, and everyone had gone home hours earlier. When it rang, I stared at it for a full 3 seconds, convinced it would stop if I ignored it. It didn't. I picked it up. "Hi," the voice said. It sounded tired, familiar. "This is going to sound strange, but you should move your coffee cup." I frowned. "What?" "Your elbow's about to knock it over." I looked down, confused, and laughed, actually laughed, because my elbow was nowhere near my cup. Then I shifted in my chair, the armrest caught my sleeve, and the cup tipped, spilling coffee across the desk and straight toward the keyboard. I yelped, jumped up, and barely saved it. When I looked back at the phone, the line was dead. I spent the rest of the night convincing myself it had been a prank. Someone with access to the internal lines. Someone who had guessed. Someone who sounded uncannily like me. By morning, I'd mostly succeeded, until it happened again. The next voicemail came 2 nights later. This time, I missed the call. I found the message blinking on my phone during my break. "Don't take the elevator tonight," the voice said. "It's going to stop between floors. Stairs are annoying, I know. Worth it." I deleted the message. Then, out of stubbornness more than anything else, I took the elevator. It stopped between floors. The lights flickered. The emergency music crackled on. I stood there for 45 minutes, leaning against the wall, feeling very stupid. That was when I stopped deleting the messages. They never warned me about anything big. No disasters, no lottery numbers, just small, mildly inconvenient things. Missed buses, a meeting that would get canceled if I didn't rush, a joke I shouldn't make because it would come out wrong. Once, it told me to call my mother because she'd been staring at her phone all evening, wondering if she was bothering me. That one stuck with me. The voice always sounded like me on my worst days. Gentle, a little sarcastic, like it had learned patience the hard way. It never explained itself. Never answered questions. It spoke, and then it was gone. After a while, I stopped trying to figure out how it was possible and started structuring my nights around it. I looked forward to the calls more than I was willing to admit. It's strange how easily a voice can become company. The nights felt less empty. When the phone rang, it was like someone had reached across time just to check on me. Someone who knew exactly how my shoulders slumped when I was tired, exactly how long I stared at the microwave waiting for leftovers to heat, exactly how lonely a room could feel even when it was full of screens. The messages started changing, slowly. They became less practical, more reflective. "You're not wasting your life," one voicemail said, "even if it feels like it. Especially if it feels like it." Another time, "You don't need to have everything figured out by 32, or 33, or ever, really." I saved those. I started doing things differently, guided by a future version of myself who seemed to know where I'd trip before I did. I took the stairs more. I called people back. I said no to extra shifts when I was exhausted, and yes to invitations that scared me a little. Life didn't become extraordinary, but it became softer. Then one night, the messages stopped. At first, I didn't notice. A few days went by without a call, and I assumed my future self was busy. Then a week. Then 2. The silence grew loud. I checked the phone obsessively, replayed old voicemails, tried calling the number back, even though I knew it wouldn't work. The line always went dead immediately, like it had never existed at all. I felt ridiculous, missing a voice that technically shouldn't have been real. Still, the nights stretched longer without it. The building felt emptier. The hum of the vending machines more insistent. I started making mistakes again. Small ones. Spilled coffee. Missed buses. I forgot to call my mother for 3 weeks. The worst part wasn't the inconvenience. It was the feeling that I'd been abandoned by myself. On the anniversary of the first call, exactly 1 year later, the phone rang again. I answered so fast I almost dropped it. "Hi," the voice said. Relief flooded through me, sharp and unexpected. "Where have you been?" I asked before I could stop myself. There was a pause, longer than usual. "I needed to make sure you could do things on your own," the voice said carefully. "Did I mess something up?" I asked. "Did I stop listening the wrong way?" "No," it said, and then softer, "You started listening to yourself." I didn't know what to say to that. "You're about to have a big day," the voice continued. "Not in a fireworks way, just important." "What happens?" I asked. Another pause. "I don't get to say," it replied. "That's kind of the point." Something in its tone made my chest tighten. "Are you okay?" A small laugh. "I am, better than I was." "Then why do you sound like this is goodbye?" "Because it was. I won't be calling again," the voice said, "after tonight." The room felt suddenly too quiet, like all the air had been pulled out of it. "Why not?" "Because you don't need me anymore," it said. "And because if I keep calling, you won't become me." The words settled slowly, clicking into place with a dull ache. "You're not my future," I said. "No," the voice agreed. "I'm your past." I closed my eyes. Images rose up uninvited, memories I hadn't visited in years. A version of myself who'd felt stuck, who'd taken the night shift because it was easier than choosing something else, who'd been afraid that any decision would be the wrong one, so he'd made none at all. "I called because I needed to," the voice said. "I needed to know you'd be okay, that you'd learn how to pay attention, that you'd be kind to yourself when no one was watching." My throat tightened. "Did I?" A smile, audible even through the phone. "You did." The line was quiet for a moment, and then it added, "Oh, one last thing." I waited. "You're going to wake up tomorrow and feel like nothing changed," it said. "That's normal, but something has. Don't ignore it." "Okay," I whispered. "Also," the voice added, lighter now, "you're still terrible at judging coffee temperatures. Let it cool." I laughed, wet and shaky. The line clicked dead. The phone never rang again. The next morning, I woke up before my alarm. Sunlight slipped through the curtains in a way I didn't usually notice. I lay there for a while, listening to my own breathing, feeling strangely steady. Nothing dramatic happened that day. I went to work. I bought groceries. I called my mother. But when small decisions came up, stairs or elevator, silence or reaching out, I noticed something new. I already knew what to do, and for the first time, it felt like my life wasn't being guided by a voice from the future, but by something quieter and stronger. Trust. I let the phone ring unanswered for the rest of my life.